The brutal psychological truth. You are trying to avoid Carl Jung philosophy. Every single person you have ever met is leading a double life. This is not a conspiracy theory, nor is it a suggestion that everyone around you is a secret agent or a criminal. It is a fundamental brutal psychological reality that Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and the father of analytical psychology, spent his entire life trying to map out. Jung once famously said that no tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. This simple yet terrifying metaphor is the key to understanding why your life might feel stagnant, why your relationships keep failing, or why you feel a persistent sense of emptiness despite doing everything right. You see, most of us spend our entire lives trying to be good, trying to be polite, and trying to be liked. We carefully curate our social media profiles. We smile when we want to scream, and we convince ourselves that we are the heroes of our own stories. But there is a silent passenger sitting in the back seat of your mind, watching everything you do, and this passenger is everything you have ever rejected about yourself. This is what Jung called the shadow, and until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Think about the last time someone truly irritated you. Perhaps it was a coworker who is overly arrogant, or a friend who is constantly seeking attention. Why does their behavior trigger such a visceral emotional reaction in you? Most of us would say it is because their behavior is objectively annoying, but Jung would suggest something far more uncomfortable. He would say that the reason you hate that person so much is because they are acting out a part of your own personality that you have suppressed and locked away in the basement of your psyche. We don't just dislike people, we project our own hidden flaws onto them. This is the first step in recognizing the brutal truth you have been avoiding. You are not the person you think you are. You are also the person you are most afraid of becoming. We spend an enormous amount of energy maintaining a mask, a persona that we present to the world. But the more perfect the mask is, the darker the shadow becomes behind it. Have you ever wondered why some of the most moral or pious people often fall the hardest into scandal? It is because they tried to ignore their roots in hell, and those roots eventually tripped them up. There is a mystery at the heart of the human experience that modern psychology often fails to address. We are told that if we just think positively, set goals, and practice self-care, we will be happy. Yet the rates of anxiety and depression continue to climb. This is because we are treating the symptoms rather than the source. The source of our unease is a fundamental disconnection from our own wholeness. We have been taught that being whole means being perfect, but Jung argued the exact opposite. To be whole is to be complete, which includes the dark, the messy, and the chaotic parts of your nature. The mystery lies in the fact that the very things you are most ashamed of, your anger, your greed, your envy, your lust, are the things that contain the most energy for your personal growth. But we are terrified of this energy. We treat our internal world like a house where we only live in the living room and the kitchen, while the basement and the attic are filled with monsters we refuse to look at. But here is the chilling part that almost nobody realizes. Those monsters don't stay in the basement. They control the thermostat. They influence who you fall in love with, what jobs you take, and how you react under pressure, all while you remain blissfully unaware of their influence. To understand how this works, we have to look at how the shadow is formed. When you were a child, you were a wild, uninhibited being. You expressed your emotions fully, but very quickly you learned that certain behaviors earned you praise, while others earned you punishment or withdrawal of love. To survive and fit into your family and society, you began to split yourself. You took the good traits and put them into your persona, your social mask. You took the bad traits and shoved them into the shadow. If you were told that big boys don't cry, you repressed your sadness. If you were told that being ambitious was greedy, you repressed your drive for success. Over time, this shadow becomes a massive reservoir of repressed potential. But it's important to understand that the shadow is not just a collection of negative traits. It is simply the unlived life. It is everything that you are, but have not allowed yourself to be. And because this energy has nowhere to go, it begins to leak out in destructive ways. It manifests as self-sabotage, as sudden outbursts of rage, or as a crushing sense of boredom and lack of meaning. You might think you are just having a bad day, but in reality, your shadow is trying to get your attention. But there is something even more profound happening beneath the surface. Jung discovered that the shadow is the doorway to the unconscious mind, and the unconscious mind is not just a personal trash can for repressed memories. It is connected to what he called the collective unconscious, a shared blueprint of human experience that has existed for thousands of years. This means that the darkness you feel inside you is not just your darkness, it is the darkness of humanity itself. This is why we are so drawn to villains in movies or dark themes in art. We recognize a part of ourselves in the chaos. However, modern society has tried to sanitize the human experience. We try to pretend that we have evolved past our primal instincts. We believe that we are rational, civilized beings. But Jung warned that the more we pretend to be civilized on the surface, the more barbaric we become underneath. When a society collective represses its shadow, it inevitably projects it onto an enemy group, leading to war, persecution, and systemic violence. The brutal truth is that the evil we see in the world is not out there among the others. It is a potential that exists within every single one of us. And here is the detail that almost nobody perceives. The most dangerous people in the world are not those who are evil, but those who believe they are only good. If you believe you are incapable of cruelty, you will never see it coming when you act cruelly. You will justify your actions as justice or righteousness. This is how the most horrific atrocities in history were committed, by people who were convinced they were the good guys. Carl Jung emphasized that to be a truly good person, you must first realize how much of a monster you could potentially be. A person who is incapable of being dangerous is not moral. They are simply harmless. There is a massive difference between a rabbit and a muzzled lion. The rabbit is good only because it has no choice. The muzzled lion is good because it has the power to destroy, but chooses to restrain itself. Jung's philosophy suggests that your task is not to eliminate your dark side, but to integrate it. You must unmuzzle the lion and learn to walk beside it. It is at this point that everything begins to make sense. Why do you feel so tired all the time? Why does it feel like you are walking through life with a weight on your shoulders? It is because you are spending a staggering amount of psychic energy trying to keep the lid on your own nature. Integration is the process of taking back that energy. It involves looking into the mirror and saying, yes, I am capable of being selfish. Yes, I have a capacity for malice. Yes, I am deeply flawed. This sounds depressing, but it is actually the most liberating thing you can do. Once you accept your flaws, they no longer have power over you. You no longer have to fear being found out. You no longer have to spend your life defending a false image of yourself. When you stop lying to yourself about who you are, you gain a level of authenticity and strength that most people will never know. You become grounded. You become real. But there is a trap here that many people fall into. They think that integrating the shadow means giving in to their darkest impulses. They think it means becoming a jerk or acting out their fantasies. This is a complete misunderstanding of Jung's work. Integration is about awareness, not indulgence. It is about acknowledging the impulse so that you can consciously choose how to act, rather than being driven by a blind compulsion. For example, if you recognize that you have a lot of repressed anger, you don't go out and start fights. Instead, you realize that your anger is actually a form of misdirected power. You then take that power and use it to set boundaries in your life, to stand up for yourself, or to pursue a difficult goal with relentless intensity. You take the fire of the shadow and use it to heat your house, rather than letting it burn the building down. As we go deeper into this, we encounter what Jung called the golden shadow. This is perhaps the most surprising part of the journey. In the process of hiding our bad traits, we often accidentally hide our greatest strengths as well. If you grew up in an environment where being intelligent was mocked, you might have repressed your intellect into your shadow. If you were told that being creative was a waste of time, your artistic soul is now rotting in the basement. Many people are actually more afraid of their light than they are of their darkness. They are afraid of the responsibility that comes with being powerful, brilliant, or truly unique. Therefore, integrating the shadow is not just about facing your demons. It is about reclaiming your lost gold. It is about finding the parts of yourself that were too big, too bright, or too much for the people around you to handle. This brings us to a terrifying realization. If you are not living your own life, who is living it? Most people are living a scripted existence, dictated by their parents, their culture, and their repressed fears. Jung called the process of breaking free from this script individuation. Individuation is the journey of becoming the specific, unique individual that you were always meant to be. It is a lonely path because it requires you to step away from the safety of the herd. The herd likes the mask. The herd wants you to be predictable and nice. When you start to integrate your shadow and become a whole person, you will inevitably upset people. You will become less agreeable. You will start saying no when you used to say yes. You will stop seeking validation from people you don't even respect. This is the price of freedom. The brutal truth is that you cannot be truly yourself and be liked by everyone at the same time. You have to choose. Do you want the comfort of the lie or the weight of the truth? Many people ask, how do I know if I'm making progress? The sign of a successful integration is not that you become a saint, but that you become more human. You become more tolerant of others because you realize that their flaws are just mirrors of your own. You become more resilient because you are no longer at war with yourself. You develop a sense of humor about your own failings. But most importantly, you find a sense of meaning. Jung believed that the midlife crisis so many people experience is actually the psyche's way of demanding that we finally address the shadow. We spend the first half of our lives building the container, the career, the family, the social status. But in the second half of life, we must look at what is inside the container. If the container is empty, because we have repressed everything that makes us alive, we will feel a profound sense of despair. This despair is not a disease to be cured. It is a call to adventure. It is the soul asking you to finally come home to yourself. But there is a detail that almost nobody perceives about this journey. It is not a one-time event. You don't fix your shadow and then live happily ever after. The shadow is like a garden. It requires constant tending. As you grow and reach new levels of success or influence, new parts of your shadow will emerge. Every new light you turn on creates a new shadow behind it. This is why the most successful and enlightened people are often the ones who are most humble and aware of their own potential for error. They know that the moment they think they have arrived, they are in the most danger of being blindsided by their own unconscious. The path of Jungian philosophy is a path of perpetual self-discovery. It is a commitment to radical honesty. Now we must face the most brutal part of this truth. Most people will never do this work. Most people will live and die behind a mask, never knowing the depths of their own soul. They will project their anger onto their neighbors, their politicians, and their spouses. They will complain about the state of the world while refusing to look at the state of their own internal world. They will choose the safety of the prison over the uncertainty of the wilderness. And that is why the world is in the state it is in. We are a collection of billion-year-old organisms trying to navigate a high-tech world using psychological tools that are barely a century old. We are like children playing with loaded guns, unaware that the most dangerous weapon in existence is the human mind that does not know itself. The revelation at the center of Jung's work is this: your darkness is not your enemy, it is your raw material. Think of a sculptor. They don't start with a finished statue. They start with a heavy, cold, dirty block of marble. To the untrained eye, The marble is just a rock. But the sculptor knows that the masterpiece is already inside, trapped by the excess stone. The shadow is that excess stone. It is heavy, it is difficult to work with, and it is messy. But if you refuse to touch the marble, you will never have the statue. You have to be willing to get your hands dirty. You have to be willing to sweat and ache. You have to be willing to destroy the version of yourself that you have carefully constructed so that the true version of yourself can emerge. This is the death and rebirth archetype that appears in every religion and mythology in history. You must die to your persona to be reborn as a whole being. So where do you begin? You begin with the things that trigger you. You begin by paying attention to your dreams, which Jung believed were messages from the unconscious. You begin by noticing the patterns in your life that keep repeating. The same type of toxic partner, the same type of conflict at work, the same feeling of being unappreciated. These are not coincidences. They are the shadow trying to speak to you. Instead of blaming the world, ask yourself, what part of this situation am I responsible for? What am I refusing to see about myself? This is an incredibly painful exercise because it strips away your victimhood. It is much easier to believe that the world is unfair than to believe that you are complicit in your own suffering. But as long as you are a victim, you are powerless. The moment you take responsibility for your shadow, you take back your power. We often think of revelation as a sudden flash of light, but in psychology, it is often a slow, agonizing realization. It is the moment you realize that you have been the villain in someone else's story. It is the moment you realize that your kindness was actually just a way to control people. It is the moment you realize that you have wasted years trying to please people who don't even care about you. This is the nigredo phase of alchemy, the blackening, where everything seems to fall apart. But it is only in this darkness that the true transformation can begin. You cannot build a new house until you clear the rubble of the old one. Most people flee the darkness at this stage, returning to their masks and their distractions. But if you can stay in the dark, if you can sit with your discomfort without trying to numb it, something miraculous happens. The darkness begins to transform. The ultimate goal of this process is what Jung called conscious wholeness. It is the ability to hold the tension between your light and your dark without being torn apart by them. It is the ability to say, I am a person who is capable of great love, and I am a person who is capable of great destruction, and I choose to use my life for the service of something meaningful. This is where true character is born. Character is not the absence of darkness. It is the mastery of it. A person who has faced their shadow is not easily swayed by the opinions of others. They are not easily radicalized by ideologies. They are not easily manipulated by fear. They have an internal compass that is grounded in reality, not in fantasy. They are the individuals who are the only hope for a society that is increasingly lost in collective madness. As we reach the end of this exploration, we must ask ourselves, what is the cost of avoiding this truth? The cost is a life that is not truly your own. The cost is a persistent, underlying sense of anxiety that no amount of money or success can soothe. The cost is the loss of your own soul. We live in a world that is obsessed with looking good, but Jung challenges us to be real. Being real is much harder than being good. Being real requires a level of courage that most people simply do not possess. It requires you to look into the abyss of your own nature and not turn away. But as Jung promised, if you have the courage to face the darkness, you will find that the abyss is not empty. You will find that it is the source of all creativity, all vitality, and all genuine human connection. In the end, the brutal truth is that you are both the problem and the solution. You are the shadow that haunts your own life, and you are the light that can transform it. We spend our lives looking for a savior, looking for a teacher, looking for a partner who will make us feel whole. But the wholeness you seek is already within you, buried under the weight of everything you have tried to avoid. The journey to find it is the most difficult thing you will ever do, but it is also the only thing worth doing. You can continue to wear the mask and play the part, or you can have the courage to take it off and see what lies beneath. The choice is yours, but remember, the shadow is patient. It will wait for you. It will follow you to the end of your days, whispering the truths you refuse to hear. You can face it now, on your own terms, or you can let it continue to run your life from the shadows. True freedom is not found in being perfect or happy. True freedom is found in the integrity of being yourself, the whole of yourself, without apology and without fear. This is the legacy of Carl Jung. He didn't offer a path to heaven. He offered a map through hell, knowing that it is the only way to truly reach the stars. The world doesn't need more people who are only good. The world needs more people who are whole. It needs people who have looked at their own darkness and decided, in spite of it, to act with compassion, with strength, and with truth. The truth may be brutal, but it is the only thing that can set you free. And once you have seen it, you can never go back to the way you were. You are no longer a character in someone else's play. You are finally the author of your own story. This is the ultimate revelation, that the monster you were so afraid of was actually the guardian of your own greatness. Don't avoid the truth any longer. Turn around, look into the shadow, and claim what is yours.